We've seen it in movies, a hidden website on the dark web, a menu of violent services, a few clicks that could change or end a life. It feels like pure fiction, and most of the time, that's exactly what it is. Cybersecurity experts and communities like Rational Wiki have long insisted that these so-called online assassination markets are scams designed to prey on fear and curiosity. But what happens when murder for hire goes digital? When anonymity and crypto make killing seem as easy as clicking a link? If you stumble across a site like that, would you believe it? Would you back away? And what would you do if you found your own name on a supposed hit list? One site in particular, Besa Mafia, became the center of that unease, although, like the rest, it was considered a hoax. Then, in February of 2016, an edit appeared on the Rational Wiki site claiming that Besa Mafia was in fact real.
Welcome to Down the Crooked Path. I'm your host, Amanda Joy. Join me as we dive into eerie and spine-chilling stories that blur the lines between reality and the unknown. From cryptids and mysterious disappearances to true crime, UFO sightings, and paranormal activity. Venture into the unknown and uncover the secrets that lie down the crooked path.
The dark web, where scams masquerade as murder for hire, where fear becomes currency, and where reputation does half the work. This is the story of Besa Mafia, the site that promised violence and delivered deception, and what it left was a trail of questions in its wake. Most people use the part of the internet that's easy to reach. Search engines will index it, companies build on it, and it's where day-to-day browsing happens. That's the surface web. It's only a small fraction of what actually exists online. Beyond that is the deep web. This isn't a hidden criminal zone. It's the portion of the internet that isn't indexed by search engines, medical records, academic databases, private company portals, subscription services, anything behind a login. It's large, structured, and used constantly without most people realizing they're even in it. The dark web is different. It's a collection of networks that require specific software to access. The most well-known is Tor. Tor routes traffic through multiple volunteer-run services. Each step strips identifying information, which makes it difficult to trace where a connection originated. The system was originally developed with the support of the U.S. Naval Research Laboratory. The goal was to create a way for intelligence sources and government communications to move without exposing their locations. Over time, the technology became public and anyone could use it with the right software. Anonymity networks like Tor or Freenet operate on similar principles. They create layers between a user and the destination they're trying to reach. The structure allows people to communicate, publish, and browse without binding activity to a physical identity. Now, you might think that these networks are used only for criminal activity, but that's not the case. Journalists rely on them to protect sources. Whistleblowers use them to submit documents without revealing who they are. Citizens and countries with strict censorship laws use them to reach information that would otherwise be blocked. Activists use them to organize without exposing themselves to surveillance. Hidden services, sites that exist inside these networks. This is where the mythology around the dark web tends to grow. Marketplaces, forums, and message boards appear and disappear. Some are scams. In fact, most of them are scams. Some are law enforcement stings. Some are genuine attempts to build communities outside of mainstream platforms. And some claim to offer services that sound impossible, illegal, or often both. Bitcoin entered the online world in 2009 as a digital currency that didn't rely on banks or government systems. It used a public ledger called the blockchain. Every transaction was recorded, but identities behind those transactions were represented by a long string of characters instead of names. That structure created a form of payment that didn't require personal information. This feature made Bitcoin appealing to people who wanted to move money without linking it to a real-world identity. When dark web marketplaces began to appear, Bitcoin became the default method of payment. Buyers and sellers would complete transactions without exposing who they were. This environment supported a wide range of activities. Drugs, stolen data, forged documents, and hacking tools were sold through these markets. Vendors accepted Bitcoin because it allowed them to operate without traditional financial oversight. These markets grew quickly, and one of the earliest, Silk Road, launched in 2011. The creator of Silk Road used the pseudonym Dread Pirate Roberts in forum posts, site announcements, and internal messages. The name was also used for more than one person over time, which made it difficult when investigating. The site structure allowed vendors to run independent storefronts, and buyers navigated categories and placed orders as well as communicated through encrypted messages. The majority of the offers consisted of drugs and narcotic sales, ranging from prescription medications to the sales of research chemicals. It also hosted forged identification documents such as driver licenses, passports, and residency cards from several countries. Other vendors offered counterfeit bill printing, malware, and hacking requests. Silk Road's growth drew attention from the law enforcement agencies in multiple countries, but despite deep investigations and monitoring of activity, the site continued to operate. Then, in October of 2014, the FBI seized the servers and arrested Ross Ulbricht of San Francisco. Prosecutors alleged that Ulbricht had operated under the name Dread Pirate Roberts persona. After its takedown, mirror sites and successor markets appeared in an attempt to replace Silk Road's structure. Some introduced new features, including multi-signature wallets or automated escrow systems. In July of 2018, Alexis Stern had just graduated from high school in Big Lake, Minnesota. She was driving along with her new boyfriend when her phone rings, and to her shock, it's the police, and they ask her to come into the station. There, they inform her that her personal information has been submitted to a website called Camera Hitman. The site offers legal services on the dark web. Someone under the username Mastermind365 has taken a hit out on her. This user had contacted a man named Yura, who supposedly ran the site, with an initial request for Alexis to be kidnapped. To which Mastermind was told it was going to be more expensive as it was riskier. A few days later, Mastermind365 messaged back and asked if the request could be upgraded to murder. The message read, "I would not like this person to be kidnapped. Instead, I would just like this person to be shot and killed. Where, how, and what with doesn't bother me at all. I would just like this person dead." Following that, the user sent $5,000 in Bitcoin along with Alexis's picture. The only person that Alexis could even think of would be her ex-boyfriend, a British gamer named Adrian Fry. Adrian had recently traveled to Minnesota to visit her in person, and the trip did not go well. After that, Alexis realized that the relationship was moving too fast, and she found him to be a bit too pushy. So she broke the relationship off shortly after the trip ended. But Fry refused to accept the breakup and would repeatedly message Alexis, telling her things like, "I'm not giving up," or saying that she had ruined his whole life. He would shift from apologetic to hostile if she didn't respond. But even with this, Alexis wasn't sure. Fry was sensitive. Alexis had been published for writing true crime books, which, oddly enough, some had plots that followed Hitman for Hire storylines, and Fry hadn't been able to finish the stories because they were too gory and upsetting for him. As it would turn out, the escalation request from kidnapping to murder came the same day that Alexis told Fry she was now in a new relationship. To top it off, when comparing messages from Mastermind365 sent to Yura and the messages Fry had sent to Alexis, there were glaring similarities. Identical spelling errors and punctuation habits. Both people would write "thank you" as one word without a space. So now Alexis does believe he placed the hit on her. However, While most people believe he's the user behind Mastermind 365 and ordered the hit on his ex-girlfriend, he has never been formally charged or arrested. In fact, no arrest has ever been made in this case. Besa Mafia appeared on the dark web in 2015 as a hidden service accessible through Tor. The site presented itself as a professional murder-for-hire marketplace. The name came from the Albanian word Besa, which means trust, and because of this it was believed to be run by a group of Albanian criminals or mobsters. Its layout was very similar to other dark web marketplaces. The homepage displayed a banner with the site's name in the font from the Godfather movies. The site was filled with goofy stock photos of men in black clothing with their faces partially covered and people holding weapons. Some of the people had their faces blurred out or were wearing tactical gear. There was a testimonial page where entries claimed successful jobs, but mostly they were linked to homicides that had never been solved and used as a stand-in for jobs. The site offered a heavy list of illegal acts, ranging from stalking and intimidation to physical assault, acid attacks, kidnapping, and, of course, murder. The site owner claimed that they had contractors across the world: Canada, the United States, European countries. And after submitting your request, they would match you with a local hitman who was right for the job in question. Once you paid via anonymous e-commerce, your money would be held in an escrow until the job was finished. If the job wasn't finished, well, you got your money back, supposedly. A shadowy figure named, you guessed it, Yura, operated as the public face of the site, claiming that he was connected to organized crime in Eastern Europe. Not only was he responsible for messaging clients and assigning the jobs, but he would threaten to expose people who questioned him. Over the years, the site has operated under several different names, although it's most notable for Besa Mafia. Other names include Cameron Hitman and Number One Hitman Marketplace. The operation took in thousands of orders over the years and millions in Bitcoin, with a significant portion of inquiries coming from people attempting to hire violence against spouses or romantic partners. Oftentimes, the same user would input multiple inquiries under different user names. The reality, though, is that these sites, Besa Mafia included, are scams. There are 0 confirmed cases of a dark web murder-for-hire marketplace successfully arranging a killing that was carried out by the hands of a hired hitman. These sites use staged testimonials and often provide updates like contractor assigned or job in progress as proof that the service is real. They use language that sounded professional in a criminal sense, but in reality, these sites were just collecting Bitcoin, generating fake updates, and never carried out a single job. They were able to get away with it because A, cryptocurrency payments are irreversible, and B, clients aren't likely to report being scammed while attempting to commit a felony. I mean, really, who is going to the police saying, hey, I hired a guy to kill my wife and he took my money but never actually killed her. I want him charged with robbery. Even Silk Road's Ross Ulbricht tried to hire a hitman at one point and lost $730,000, and the murder never happened. It's one of the reasons that led to his arrest, actually. Enter the Allwines. Amy and Stephen Allwine were a married couple in Cottage Grove, Minnesota. Stephen worked as an IT specialist and ran a side business repairing computers. Amy was a dog trainer who ran her own business and often traveled for work. Together, they had an adopted son and were active members of their church. In fact, Stephen was a deacon. In May of 2016, the FBI contacted Cottage Grove police and told the local officers that there was a woman in their jurisdiction that had been listed as a target on a dark web murder-for-hire site. That site was Besa Mafia. So the Cottage Grove police go to the Allwines and inform them that there is a threat on Amy's life. The user who ordered the hit was called Dog Day God, and they claimed to be a local woman and said that her husband and Amy were having an affair. This person also claimed that Amy was stealing their clients and ruining their business. The order included photos of Amy, her full name and home address, and a request for the killing to look like an accident. Naturally, both Amy and Stephen are horrified when they hear this, and Amy denies the affair and Stephen believes her. After that, Stephen installs additional security cameras around the home, gets Amy into self-defense courses, and they also purchase a handgun. But otherwise, the family carries on like normal. Nothing seems to come of this, and that summer, Besa Mafia website is shut down. Until November 13th, 2016, when Stephen and their son come home to find Amy dead on the bedroom floor. He calls 911 and he tells them that he thinks his wife shot herself, but he's not sure. Amy has a gunshot wound to the head, and the very gun Stephen had bought for protection is resting on the floor near her left elbow. Right away, this doesn't seem like a suicide to the police. For one, Amy was right-handed, but the gun was placed on her left side. There is no blood splatter that is consistent with a self-inflicted gunshot wound, and there isn't any gunshot residue found on Amy's hands. The room shows no signs of struggle, but it does look like it's been deliberately staged. There is a square spot on the carpet that appears to have been cleaned recently. In fact, the floor is still wet in this spot. The wound trajectory also doesn't match up with Amy's arm reach and the entry point. When the autopsy report comes back, it shows very high levels of scopolamine, a medication normally used for motion sickness or post-operative nausea, but in high doses it can cause severe drowsiness, impaired balance, reduced ability to resist or react, and the person may appear confused or disoriented. Often it comes across as the person being intoxicated or sedated. Amy's search history for that day showed she actually looked up information on vertigo and dizziness. The amount of scopolamine that was found in her system was significant. I'm talking 40 times over the amount usually prescribed. She could not have functioned normally at the time of her death and would not have been able to fire the gun herself. So if Amy didn't kill herself, then who did? The investigation turned back to Dog Day God. Remember, Dog Day God said that they were a local woman in Cottage Grove whose husband Amy was having an affair with, and Amy had ruined her business. This person said she wanted revenge and that she knew so much about Amy's schedule because she lived close by. This person had made several requests on Amy's life. At first, Dog Day God said that they wanted it to look like an accident and provided specific dates and timeframes that aligned with a business trip to Moline, Illinois that Amy was taking in March. Ura tells Dog Day God that it'll be $6,000. But when Amy comes home from her trip safe and sound, Ura explains that the hitman didn't have a good opportunity to stage a car accident, but hey, they would try again. Dog Day God tried to get Amy murdered at least 5 different times over a month. But for one reason or another, the job can't be finished. But this doesn't deter Dog Day God. If anything, it makes them more determined, and they escalate the situation. To them, travel must be the issue, so it's far easier to take a hit out on Amy when she's home. And this person asks for the whole house to be burned down, to which Ura says, of course this can be done, but it's going to be an extra $5,000. Dog Day God sends the money over Bitcoin and gives a deadline by May 1st. But of course, this also never happens. So Dog Day God messages back asking for a refund, to which they receive a message saying that the site has been hacked on May 20th, and this person has all the targets and customers' information. They will send it all to law enforcement unless Dog Day God pays another 10 Bitcoin. Of course, after this, Dog Day God stops messaging. So what happened to Amy if Besa Mafia didn't kill her? During the search of the house, police enter the basement, and they find that Stephen has a lot of computers and other technology, which at first doesn't seem odd considering he works in IT. But then they discover that he also has 5 cell phones that no one else knows about. And when they do a search through these devices, they find that some of them have the Tor browser installed. And while they can't see who Dog Day God is, they can see that Stephen's crypto wallet has sent out Bitcoin on the same days with the same amounts as Dog Day God. They can also see that he has purchased scopolamine online as well. As it just so happened, Stephen was having an affair with not one, but 2 women on the cheating site Ashley Madison, one of which he was taking very seriously. Being so heavily involved in the church, he saw no way that he could divorce Amy. But if her death looked like an accident, not only would he be out of his marriage, but he would be able to pursue a relationship with someone else, and he would also be entitled to the life insurance money. Win-win. So in February of 2016, Stephen created an account and logged into Besa Mafia as Dog Day God. He comes up with this spurn women business computer angle to make himself seem even more anonymous. Now, there are several different ways to purchase Bitcoin. There are ATMs that sell Bitcoin. You can buy it online with a bank transfer or credit card, or you can do what Stephen did. There are local services that pair you with a trader in your area who can make the transfer in person. Stephen had taken $7,000 from his joint account with Amy and met such a trader named Ryan in a parking lot of a Wendy's. But when the hit never happened, Stephen decided to take things into his own hands. He was arrested in January of 2017 and charged with first-degree premeditated murder and was sentenced to life in prison without parole. More recently, in July of 2023, the name Besa Mafia appeared in headlines again, tied to a case that had begun in early 2016. This case centered on a woman named Christy Lynn Felkins, who had used the dark web to arrange what she believed would be the murder of her ex-husband, Gabriel Scott. The investigation showed that Felkins first contacted the site in February of 2016. She told the administrators that she needed someone to kill Scott. She provided his name, his home address in North Carolina, his vehicle information, and locations he visited regularly. She even went as far to include Starbucks locations he frequented, a Chino's, and a trip to California that he had been planning. Felkins and Scott had married in 2004. Their relationship had ended in 2014, and the divorce was finalized in January of 2016. After the separation, Scott remained in North Carolina, while Felkins moved to California and Nevada. When she reached out to Besa Mafia, she explained that she wanted Scott killed and asked for it to be staged like an accident. The administrators, most likely Yura, told her that the job could be done and quoted a price. Felkins transferred 12 Bitcoin, which at the time was worth about $5,000. As the conversation continued, the administrator told Felkins that the hitman wanted more money to stage the killing as a robbery. The new demand was $4,000. Felkins refused to pay more money and told the administrator to proceed with the original plan. The administrator continued to message her, claiming that the hitman was having trouble locating Scott. Felkins pressed for progress, but nothing ever happened. The site never carried out any acts of violence. It was a scam, and her Bitcoin was gone. The case didn't surface until years later, when law enforcement agencies seized servers connected to Besa Mafia. Investigators found Felkins' messages, the payment records, and the identifying information that she had provided about Scott. The case was taken up by the Northern California Illicit Digital Economy, or NCIDE, task force, which included Homeland Security investigations, the FBI, and the U.S. Postal Inspection Service, as well as the DEA. Felkins was indicted in 2020. In July of 2023, Felkins appeared in federal court in the Eastern District of California. She pled guilty to using interstate commerce facilities in the commission of murder for hire. Assistant U.S. Attorney Justin Lee prosecuted the case, and U.S. Attorney Philip A. Talbot announced the sentence. Felkins received 5 years in federal prison. By this point, investigators kept coming back to the same name, Yura. But who was he, and where was he? The server from his messages showed a Romanian address, but that doesn't mean anything on the dark web. He could literally be anywhere in the world. They looked up the way he communicated with customers, the hours he responded, the patterns in his writings. They examined the accounts linked to him and the digital footprints that appeared on the site's logs, but after all that, they still couldn't figure out who or where Yura was. But they did discover that Yura is not working alone. There are at least 2 co-founders. And this brings police to Christopher Montero.
Ever hear a whisper in the dark and think, that's a tomorrow problem? Welcome to Not My Ghost, Not My Problem, where hosts Jen and Kelly share listener-submitted ghost stories, haunted places, and chilling mysteries, all with a wicked sense of humor. It's spooky, it's hilarious, and it might just make you second-guess that shadow in the corner. Believer or skeptic, there's always room around their campfire. Search for Not My Ghost, Not My Problem on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. Hit play, and remember, it's only your problem if you acknowledge it.
Chris was a cybersecurity researcher and an independent journalist who was known for tracking criminal marketplaces and dark web scams. However, there were several blog posts stating that he and another journalist named Eileen Omsby were the ones responsible for the site. Chris was supposedly the mastermind, while Eileen did the marketing. As for Yura, he was an Albanian mobster living in London who would provide them with assassins. At the time, both Chris and Eileen had their own blogs, which were reporting Besa Mafia as a scam site, like all the other Hitman for hire sites that came before it. In fact, in earlier years, if you Google searched Besa Mafia, their articles were some of the first to come up. But apparently, this was all just a decoy. It was rumored that in 2016, the pair thought the site was garnering too much attention from the authorities. So to keep local and law enforcement off their back, they came up with these fake Hitman for hire blogs and were only pretending to expose Besa Mafia. In April of 2016, Chris was allegedly responsible for data leaking information from the Besa Mafia website. These blogs claiming him as the real mastermind said this was all a part of the decoy as well, that he had only released messages from pending customers as a way to make it look like the orders were never really being filled. And so, in February of 2017, the UK's National Crime Agency produces a warrant to search Chris's London apartment. They bust into his apartment. Chris is sitting there eating a bowl of soup, and the place is filled with computer equipment. 6 computer monitors are all set up with different programs on their screens, and there is this huge whiteboard full of numbers and arrows and bits of weird information. Chris is handcuffed. His computers are all seized, and he is taken down to the station where he is formally arrested for incitement to murder. But when they start interrogating him, he paints them a very different picture. Chris tells them that he has already spoken with the FBI, LAPD, NCA, and the counterterrorism units. These people must really have no clue what is actually happening if they arrested Chris, because he is the one who went and shut down the site. As it just so happens, Chris was one of the leading researchers in cybercrime. He was running a subreddit, r/deepweb, and has been writing tons of articles on the matter. He had never even heard of Besa Mafia until that Rational Wiki page had that edit in 2006, stating that Besa Mafia was real. Which to Chris doesn't seem possible. Every Hitman for hire site is a scam. So he begins to look into their site and business, and then he starts posting about it on his blog pirate.london, exposing all of their terrible business practices and exposing them as the scam that they really were. Once he starts doing this, he himself starts getting emails from, you guessed it, Yura. He wants to prove to Chris that the site is real and that they do carry out and fulfill all of their hits. He tells Chris, why don't you send us the name and address and picture of one of your enemies? We won't kill them, but we'll beat them. Chris obviously declines. Instead, he asks that they send him some news coverage on hits that they are responsible for, to which Yura says, who in their right mind would order a murder on the dark web and then have the news report it? And honestly, he has a point. After that, Chris doesn't follow up, but he does publish all of the email exchanges. Weeks go by and nothing happens until someone comments a link to a video. In the video, there is someone setting fire to a car. This person holds up a sign that says, gang member for Besa Mafia on Deep Web, dedication to Pirate London, April 10th, 2016. Now, this has gotten Chris's attention. So he creates an account on the Besa Mafia website under the name Bodie McBoatface, and he orders a hit on someone that he calls Bob the Builder. It's at this point that Chris realizes a major design flaw. Every single message that is sent is given a unique ID number, and if you put said number into the URL, it will take you to that message, even if you aren't the user who sent it. Chris painstakingly goes through the site's messages and sees the same scam being played out over and over again. It starts with a request, the customer pays, Yura gives them an excuse and upsells them to pay more and more while the hit never happens, and eventually the customer gives up. But the site reports happy customers who claims their hits and orders really did happen. Well, Yura had hired freelance writers instructing them to use certain buzzwords to make them not only seem authentic, but also so that their reviews are some of the first to come up when you search Besa Mafia or Hitman for hire. Then in April of 2016, there is a major data leak on the site, and while Chris genuinely didn't have anything to do with it, Yura thought he had. So he tries to beat Chris at his own game, creating blogs to make it look like Chris is the one behind the site. How these articles tricked law enforcement is beyond most people. Since the leak, Chris has been desperately trying to get the NCAA and the FBI to really look into Besa Mafia, but no one really knew whose jurisdiction it falls under, so Chris is just passed around from agency to agency with no resolution or help. While the site isn't actually hiring hitmen and carrying out murders themselves, it is still dangerous. There are people out there who are desperate enough to pay for someone they hate to be killed. And what do they do when that doesn't happen? To Chris, the answer is obvious. That person was most likely going to kill the target themselves. And as we've seen in the Allwine case, he wasn't wrong. Understanding he clearly isn't getting anywhere with law enforcement agencies, Chris does the next best thing. He hacks into the site and shuts it down. This doesn't stop Yura, who puts up an identical site called Crime Bay. Finally, Chris is able to convince the investigators to look at his computers, where they find everything they need to back Chris's story, including email exchanges with Yura and the ones to their colleagues in different law enforcements. It takes about 36 hours, but Chris is finally released from custody, and as of May 2017, the crime-based site has also been shut down by the NCA. The search is on for users who were soliciting murders, but very few have actually been charged. As for Yura, he was never found. In a few months, he had another site up called Costa Nosa. It was basically the same setup, but this time he used different mob groups like Sicilian Hitmen or the Yakuza. He was still emailing Chris, but now he was admitting the sites are a scam. He tries to play it off like he's doing something noble here, wasting the time and money of would-be killers. And Chris isn't the only journalist that Yura wrote. He has also sent emails to John Volpicelli saying that reporting these sites as scams means you are essentially helping those murderers and giving them the opportunity to find other ways to kill. If Amy Allwine's case has taught us nothing, it's that this tactic, if you can call it that, isn't stopping murders from happening, it's merely delaying them. Then in 2018, CBS show 48 Hours contacts Yura for an episode that they're producing about Hitman for Hire. And surprisingly, Yura responds, and he actually provides them with the names of some of the customers and their targets. This information leads to the arrest of 4 clients. A man in Singapore receives 5 years for trying to have his ex's new boyfriend killed. One is an army specialist who tried to have his pregnant girlfriend killed. He is serving 15 years. Another is a nurse serving 10 years for placing a hit on her lover's wife. And the lightest sentence was given to a man in California for ordering a hit on his stepmother. He only received 3 years because he had paid about $3 of the $9,000 to fulfill the job before the police were tipped off. One major hit was placed on Brian Jaroge in June of 2018. Brian was a soldier who was on leave in Indiana. Naturally, Yura never fulfilled the hit, but Brian was found dead from a gunshot wound to the head. His body was found under the stairs of a baseball field about a week after the order was placed. Despite having the information that a hit was taken out on his life, His death was never investigated as a homicide. Instead, his death was listed as a suicide. In 2019, Yura emails 48 Hours and complains that since their episode has aired, he has seen a huge decline in business, and I guess you would. And with that, he has now decided that he's going to get out of the murder business and settle for a quieter life. He is going to open up a restaurant. An intelligence agent helps 48 Hours discover some hacked information about the email Yura has been using. It belongs to an older Russian woman living in New York. With this, they find her son-in-law has an email address that contains words like kill or gun. He had moved to the US in the 1990s and owns a tech company, and get this, he has just purchased a restaurant. In early 2020, the 48 Hour team has tracked this man down and they ambush him right there in the streets. This guy gets very combative, and he states that Yura isn't him and his identity must have been stolen. He actually starts to get a bit violent, so the team rushes back to their truck. And some people think that this combativeness is a bit odd, but I mean, you're ambushed and attacked by strangers in the streets. It kind of makes sense for me. But after this, it's just kind of left there. They never interview him and they never release his name either. But the attention around Besa Mafia opens up another corner of the dark web that has been circulating for years. The idea of assassination markets. Assassination markets weren't a new idea when Besa Mafia is getting attention. The idea has been floating around since the early 1990s in cypherpunk circles, when a writer named Jim Bell published a series of essays called Assassination Politics. In those essays, he described a system where people could anonymously place bets on a date a public figure would die using digital cash. If someone made the correct prediction, they would receive a payout. This payout was an incentive to have that person killed. Bell argued that this kind of system could exist outside of traditional law enforcement, and his writings circulated widely enough that it became a reference point for later dark web experiments. Bell himself was eventually persecuted in the United States, but not for running assassination markets. Rather, he was arrested for stalking and threatening federal agents and served time in a federal prison. Years later, when anonymous cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin became more accessible, people started trying to turn Bell's theory into actual websites. On some Tor hidden services, users could find pages that listed public figures by name, along with open prediction pools tied to their deaths. This list included politicians like Barack Obama and Angela Merkel, and other heads of state as well as business leaders and law enforcement officers. The site claimed that anyone could contribute funds to the pool, and anyone could place a prediction on a date. If the person died on that date, the site said the winning predictor would receive the accumulated pot. The operators framed it as a kind of betting game built on anonymity and cryptocurrency. Researchers and journalists who monitor these markets noted that the sites often had very low activity. The pools rarely showed significant amounts of money, and there was no verified cases where payouts was confirmed or tied to a real-world killing. Many of these markets went offline quickly, either because the operator lost interest, failed to attract users, or became concerned about law enforcement attention. Some of the sites appeared to be more like provocations or political statements rather than functioning markets, borrowing language from Bell's essays and from online libertarian forums. In some cases, agencies issued internal reports flagging the presence of assassination markets that listed sitting presidents and prime ministers, but without evidence of actual coordination, payments to a killer, or a direct link between predictions and a death. The sites often fell into a gray area where they were disturbing but clearly not prosecutable on their own. Today, law enforcement is still trying to tackle the dark web assassination sites and the broader ecosystem around them, but they keep running into the same problem time and time again. Agencies tried to monitor sites that were hidden behind layers of encryption, servers that bounced through multiple countries, and administrators who never used the same identity twice. Even when they knew a site existed, they couldn't always see who was running it or where the servers were physically located. Some of them were hidden services hosted in Eastern Europe, others in Western Europe, and some were routed through countries that didn't cooperate with international warrants. Every time investigators tried to trace a connection, they hit a jurisdiction barrier that slowed everything down. These jurisdiction issues were constant. A server might be in Romania, the administrator in UK, the customers in the United States, and the cryptocurrency exchange in a completely different country. Each location required a separate legal process, and some countries didn't respond to requests at all. Agencies like the FBI, Europol, and the NCA, as well as Australian Federal Police, have tried to coordinate across time zones and legal systems, and even then, the results are slow. Some investigations stall for months because a single country wouldn't release a server's log or confirm an IP address. Undercover operations were one of the few tools that worked, but even those had limits. Agents would create accounts, interact with site administrators, and try to build enough rapport to gather evidence. They monitored message boards, watched for new listings, and traced cryptocurrency wallets tied to the sites. But the people running these markets are used to disappearing. They shut down accounts without warning, wipe servers, and move to new domains before investigators could get a foothold. Some agencies tried to infiltrate the markets by posing as customers, but the operators often demand proof of funds or long-term activity before they would respond. Encryption created another layer of difficulty. Messages were routed through Tor, protected by end-to-end encryptions, and stored on servers that investigators couldn't access without physical seizures. Even when agencies did manage to get a server, the data was often incomplete or intentionally corrupted. Operators used disposable email addresses, VPN chains, and cryptocurrency tumblers that made it nearly impossible to follow the money. Investigators had to rely on timing patterns, writing styles, and metadata fragments to piece together who was behind the accounts. It's because of these challenges that law enforcement has stopped looking at these sites and who runs them. Instead, it's turned attention to the people who are using them. It's easier to arrest someone who's placed a hit than to identify the person running the site. That's why cases like Christy Flecken's moved forward quickly. While the search for Yura and operators behind assassination markets have dragged on for years, really, the search for Yura has pretty much stopped altogether, and he's never been identified. It doesn't seem like they're even trying to identify him anymore. Sites like these haven't disappeared, and neither have the people who go looking for them. When a person is desperate enough to pay a stranger on the dark web to kill someone, they don't always stop when the order goes nowhere. Some of them start looking for other options, and a few decide to take matters into their own hands. Technology has changed the way that people communicate, work, and the way that they move through everyday life. But it's also changed the way we commit violence. It's created a space where people behind keyboards feel safe in anonymity when it comes to threatening and hurting people. And that's kind of disturbing. The sites might not have been capable of killing anyone, but the people using them were still looking for a way to make someone disappear. And that's where the danger has always been. Remember, the most unsettling threats aren't always the one hiding in the shadows of the internet. Sometimes they're the ones sitting behind a keyboard, convinced that a few clicks can solve a problem that they already were prepared to solve another way. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and let the unanswered questions guide you. This is Amanda Joy, signing off.